So we're still in the, in the doldrums. And hopefully that things will turn around one way or the other.
Okay, Bashir, the Edo state elections have been won and lost, or lost and won. You had all the things that happened before. A gentleman was in the APC. He was denied a ticket because of his qualifications, apparently switched to the PDP, won the elections. Another guy was in the APC, drove a very hard contest. Somehow he seems to have lost and blah, blah, blah. What does this portend from where you stand or for our democracy? Is this really how democracy should be run? Can people switch parties when they feel like? What's your own view of the whole thing? I'm just trying to be objective here.
You see, the truth of the matter is that Nigeria's democracy over the past 20 years did not deliver on its promise. That is the promise of a government of the people, for the people, by the people. It has turned out to be a system of a revolving door patronage, where politicians, once in power, they coalesce and perpetuate themselves and their interests directly or through their cronies. Now, a system like this, which has become hostage to personal and private interests, is broken. It undermines democracy, and it cannot deliver good governance. Now, the two key players in Edo were the pastor and the sitting governor. They changed places. In 2019, the pastor was in what is today the opposition party, and the sitting governor was in what is today the winning party. But in 2015, in 2015 they changed places. In 2021, they changed places. Now, what does that tell you? For me, it tells me that the parties are run by the same people for the same purpose, with the same ideology or lack of it. And therefore, people can easily move in and outside political parties and contest elections because the whole purpose is to grab power by whatever means necessary. The welfare of the people is hardly on the table. So a system which enables this kind of thing, makes it possible for the kind of thing that we've seen in Edo to take place. Now that people have moved their focus on the right issues, away from the right issues. They are now mostly talking about the defeat of godfatherism. That is not the most important issue. That's not the most important lesson we've learned from Edo. The most important lesson is that politicians, all of them, are in the same camp, and the rest of us are in another camp. And when their interests coincide, they behave in the same manner. So this is the most important lesson to learn from Edo, that there is no principle yet in Nigerian politics.
But I thought you were a politician yourself. I thought you were a politician. Are you saying you're not a politician?
You know, that is the definition of a politician is someone who makes a living from being in politics. I am a businessman in politics. So I have a mission in politics. I'm a businessman essentially, but I'm in politics to make a difference.
Politics to make a difference. Is that the normal definition of politician, or is that the Nigerian definition of a politician?
In truth, that is the normal definition of a politician. A politician is someone who makes a living from being in politics.
Okay.
That's the normal definition of a politician.
Okay. All right. Let's come back to our democracy in Nigeria, and to some extent, you have defined it in some form. Maybe you can deepen that definition and also give clarity as to, do we really need even a democracy in Nigeria? So the question is, do we need a democracy in Nigeria? And what kind of democracy do we have, or what kind of democracy should we really have to strengthen our institutions and strengthen our national development in Nigeria?
You know, democracy is a principle. It's a way of doing things. It's not necessarily a political system as such. You can have a democracy in your home. You can have it in your office. You can have it in the marketplace. So it's a way of doing things. And so it doesn't have to be something that is based on multi-party arrangement. For example, the Chinese call their system a democracy, but the West describe it as, you know, an authoritarian regime. So it's what you choose to do with that manner of doing things that makes the distinction as to whether you are operating a democracy or not. Western democracy is based on multi-party system, but there are other forms of democracy. I mean, there were times in Africa whereby we were having a one-party democracy. And some of the countries that run a one-party democracy did very well. But within the one party, there was enough room for choice. And the most important thing about democracy is the right and the freedom to choose. Okay, so I'm not sure we are reaping the right kind of benefit from a multi-party system, because today, as we speak in Nigeria, we have 91 political parties, and they all look the same, but they still don't provide us with enough, you know, options to choose one from another. So what is happening is that you can easily move from any one of these political parties to the other, and you will still feel you are in the same environment, because none of the 91 political parties is different from the other. So in that sense, the multiplication and the atomization of political parties is not necessarily a benefit to Nigerians, because, like I said, no higher principles are involved. The main thing is, how do we access power by whatever means necessary? And can we, in all honesty, say that in truth today, that Nigerians have options to choose from political parties, options that affect their lives? For example, will my life improve if I move from one political party to another because they have a better program for me and my family? I would say that that's not the case as we speak, that the parties are all the same.
Very good, Bashir. Please, if you can, my people on Instagram, they've not been able to get the benefit of this conversation. I don't know if you can get somebody to work on your Instagram for you so that you can invite us and you can send your request.
I have my Instagram with me right now, but because I'm trying to multitask, not to disappoint, so that's why.
We're going to give you some time to try and fix the Instagram. I'm sure our viewers on Zoom will understand.
Okay, thank you very much. Can you repeat your name on Instagram again?
Pastor Itwa Igodalo.
Okay, Pastor. And that platform that I need to invite, right?
Yeah, you need to send your request.
Okay.
Pastor Itwa Igodalo.
Okay. Oops. I'm sorry, I have a Chinese phone, so it's...
It's from your love for Chinese government.
Okay, I have it. I just sent the request.
Oh. Technology, it's amazing. Viewers on Zoom, please bear with us. Let's have our friends on Instagram to join. You send the request?
Yes, I did.
Okay, let's see if it's coming from China. Let me put on the earphones also.
Does it take so long to
We're trying to find your request.
My username is BASHIYR1.
BASHIYR1.
Okay, I sent it. There is another, I think, is it a parody or it's an account with your name, but it's not yours. Yours is verified, right?
Yes.
Your account is verified, but the other one I sent to was not verified.
With a blue tick should verify it.
Yeah, that's the verification. I just saw it. So I just sent the request now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think it should work now.
Yeah.
No, I. You say it's BASHI?
BASHYR1.
R1. No, it's not coming. Anyway, let's go on. Let's not keep our viewers, our participants waiting. So, what kind of government, or what kind of political structure do you think, in your own experience, will deliver results and reward for Nigeria? What kind do you think?
Well, to be honest with you, I think for Nigeria's democracy to move in the right direction, we have to dismantle the patronage system that has been entrenched, made up of three groups: political party officials, party financiers, and public officers. This trio have a choking grip on Nigeria's democracy. And if we need to, within the limits of the constitution that we have, if we want to move forward, we have to dismantle the patronage system that these three groups have entrenched. One, keeping this system in place is not an option, because it would mean keeping Nigeria running a vicious cycle. And for me, the best option is for patriotic middle class, members of the middle class, organized in the same form that the politicians or professional politicians are organized. They move to disrupt this system. They need to disrupt this system and create a new path for salvaging Nigeria. Now they need to create a new crop of leaders within this patriotic middle class. And the reason why I keep speaking about the middle class is because the middle class are the class of people that have the most interest in the survival of this system. These are people who are mostly middle income earners who have so much to lose or to gain from the failure of the success of the system. And if you don't have anything to lose in a system, then you don't care whether it survives or not. Now, this group of people must set as one of its priorities creation of a platform to recruit credible leaders. They must also use their organizational and bureaucratic skills to institutionalize political parties and to take them away from the control of individuals. Now, they should also contest elections to capture power. Often you hear people say, no, I'm not a politician. I don't want to double into politics. Well, if you are not interested in politics, then you leave the space for people who have absolutely no stake in the system to crowd you out and to take over the system. And that is what we are seeing in most places today. And they need to replace this patronage system with a merit system and populate the government with experts from within their ranks wherever possible. And another thing we need to address is the issue of party funding. Once parties are funded by people with a lot of money, then the members of the party lose control of these parties. And the parties are the only vehicle within our constitution through which you can recruit leaders. So we have to change that model. We have a dire need to create a new funding model for political parties. And this new funding model must have as its center the payment of membership dues as the main, or wherever possible, as the only source of sustenance of political parties. We must find a way to drastically reduce the cost of running political parties. Because as long as political parties are expensive to run as they are today, membership dues will not even be able to fund them. And those who fund them would take control of the political parties. And by that control, they also take control of machinery of government. And if that happens, then ordinary voters and ordinary members of political parties cannot hold their leaders accountable.
So, Bashir, these are very interesting suggestions that you are making, and it sounds a little bit like the American model and things like that. I have two questions for you, and really at this platform, we want to drill down, we want to be granular, we want things that are implementable. Here we are now in the system that we run, that's almost like open team, open game, all comers, okay? How are we going to get this system to translate from what you have described, from what it is to what you have described? Already, you have some people in power. Already, you have some people who are financing these political parties. Already, you have a lot of people who are gaining and benefiting from the status quo. Already, you have some people who have held the general people of Nigeria to their necks. Their necks are on the ground, and they've held their necks to the ground. So, in fact, I think that we're going through a second wave of colonialism in Nigeria, and we really need to fight to release ourselves from our new colonial masters, okay? So how will we move from where we are in practical terms, knowing that the people in charge of the Constitution, the people in charge of the Parliament, the people in charge of the Houses of Assembly, the people in charge of government and the executive arm of government, and the people perhaps controlling the judiciary today are these same people that you are now trying to tell, no, we need a new form of government, this and that. And you've described them as people who live by politics. This is their source of income. This is how they make their money. This whole thing is about making money for a lot of them. How are you going to get them to move to a system that you are describing that you think is better for the generality of Nigerians? How do we make that move? Are we just going to postulate on the basis of theory and ideas, or is it something that is practicable and achievable? That's question number one. And number two, in reality, if a guy does not have enough money or the party system doesn't give him enough money, how does he run what you would describe as a good campaign? You are running for president, you have 774 local governments to cover, various wards and places like that. How are you going to cover those things and sell yourself or sell your manifesto if you have one? And then, of course, very few politicians in Nigeria actually have anything called the manifesto. But how do you sell yourself to these people if you are not adequately funded? I don't know if I've asked you too many questions at the same time.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I'm following your questions. Okay, now what I describe is not rocket science. What I describe is not something that has not been attempted before. I'll give you an example. In 1998, when Abdusalam Abubakar rolled out his transition program, I formed an organization called Abuja Initiative.
You formed that organization?
Yes, called Abuja Initiative. In that organization were people from across the length and breadth of this country, executives of corporations, reputable lawyers, mostly professionals, and I'll give you some names. People like Aswe Igodalo, your own brother, was part
I
of
knew
that.
that would be the first name you would call.
Yes. People like Fola Adiola was with us. Awal Awar is on this platform, he was with us. People like Benga Webode was with us. Atedo Petosai was with us. Nasir Rufai was with us. You know, we created this massive organization in order to take advantage of the level playing ground that was available at the time to establish a political party and run for elections. Somehow along the line, some of us began to develop cold feet and began to think about so many meetings we were doing and so much money they were losing, not attending to their businesses. But I told them from the word go that all of us need to take a break for 2 years from our businesses to go into that political space, to take it over and make the difference. Because if you don't do that, your businesses will become no longer tenable because you will hand over policy into the hands of people who will destroy your businesses. But along the line, before the elections, most of the people drifted away. And I thank God that at one point, someone like Benga or anybody attempted to run for an election. But that was a bit late, by which time these other people who had virtually nothing to do other than politics have taken over the system. So now it's going to be like 10 times more difficult to take over control of this system than it would have been if we had tried in 1998. But it is still possible. It is the commitment we bring to it. And none of these people that I mentioned needs to be in public office because they all have their own source of income. So this is the kind of thing we need to replicate today. But like I said, it will take 10 times the amount of effort to achieve what we wanted to achieve back in 1998. So it is possible. It has happened in Turkey. The current leaders in Turkey organized themselves. They are members of the middle class. They organized themselves. They fought for power for over 20 years. Eventually, they've been in power now for another 20 years, and they have transformed that country. Whatever else people will call them, Turkey now is a better country today than it was before the current leaders took over control. So there are many models in other parts of the world that we can learn from, and we can replicate these models here in Nigeria.
Okay, that's a good one that you said, but you see that somehow in Nigeria, that Abuja initiative somehow did not quite deliver the expectations for different reasons. First of all, maybe from your experience, and it's good that you were the initiator of that initiative, what went wrong? How do we correct it? And maybe you didn't quite anticipate that that may have gone wrong along the line and therefore caught everybody on a flat foot. What went wrong? How do we anticipate it? And if we're going to repeat that kind of thing in Nigeria today, what do we need to do? And what is it going to cost us, both in terms of time and alternative income, or what the economics call some kind of loss here and the other?
I think what went wrong was, one, we underrated our capacity. Most of us underrated the kind of value addition that we can bring to the system. When the political parties were being formed, then when we had big names all over the place, people began to think, can we compete with these people? But they don't know that we are the people that make those political parties function. The big names don't work. We are the ones who walk through the night and make these political parties happen. So that is one of the problems. The other problem is that I believe that most of Nigerian middle class, members of the Nigerian middle class, have a trading mentality. What do I mean by trading mentality? Everybody wants to see immediate profit. Everybody wants to see immediate benefit. We couldn't sacrifice 2 years of our lives in order to rescue this country from the situation that it has now today found itself. And everybody began to look back at how much money they would lose if they left their job. I'll give you another example. In 1999, when Obasanjo won the ticket of his party to run for president, I drafted the late Abba Kari to come and run along with him as his running mate. Then Abba Kari resigned as managing director of UBA, or maybe took a leave of absence from UBA, and tried, and we fought very hard, and we almost made it to the ticket. And that's the level of our conviction, that we need people who have skills in business to bring that skill into governance. We need people who have something to lose if the system goes wrong, in order for the system to go right. Because if the system is in the hands of people who have nothing to lose, then you are in trouble. So it's not for lack of, we're here today, not because we didn't try, but because we didn't have the staying power. And that is what we need to realize, that there is one presidential candidate today as we speak, who has been running for president since 1992, and he has not given up. Why should you? This is the point that I'm trying to make, that members of the middle class must sacrifice, must take a leave from business and take a role and take responsibilities in politics, in political parties first, and then in government.
I think I've gotten one very good point from you, and I think quite a few people on this platform today would consider themselves members of this middle, maybe to upper class or lower to middle, I don't know. And the key here is people must be ready to sacrifice and take time off and be part of this political process. Otherwise, you can argue all you want, all day, all night, complain and grumble all you want. Nothing will change, because the people who will change it are not listening to you. You have to get into the kitchen to prepare the meal. I think that's a very, very important point. And I think a lot of people in the so-called middle class or elites in Nigeria have been missing this point. So aside from that, Bashir, what then do we need to do to change the dynamics of our leadership and political discourse in Nigeria? Let's assume that a few people of the middle class now want to take some time off, 2-3 years, to really get into this thing. What next do we do?
Well, you have to create a critical mass, because if you are just a few people, we won't make a dent on the system. You need to create a critical mass of members of the middle class. For example, in every local government you go, there is someone, in every ward, in fact, there is someone there who has been in this system since 1999, who is interested in making sure that this system subsists, making sure that this system continues to thrive. Now we have thousands of these people all over the place. But what we lack in numbers, we can compensate with skill. If we have the critical mass, we can compensate with our skill. But we cannot just throw in a few good men there and say that, okay, this man will now change the system. It won't work that way. We have to identify in Lagos, in Cross River, in Sokoto, in Borno, in Enugu, in Abia, who are the people that we need to work with that will hold forth in that part of the country, in their wards, in their local governments, in their states, that will fund there are political parties that will fund the right candidates in order for this to work. This could have worked, for example, a few people who could have made a difference in 1998, but not anymore. Now you need a large number of people with the same level of conviction, with the same level of commitment to change the system, and with the same capacity for sacrifice before this can happen.
Well, I think the challenge really, Bashir, is getting this large number of people and who will build the cart, who will drive the initial effort. You know, no matter how large they become, a few people or one person has to begin to drive this effort. How do we find that one person who will be willing to drive this effort? Maybe you are that person. Again, you want to try in 2020 to now begin that effort all over again, because that's number one. Know who will be the person who will begin that effort. Number two is this, and I hear this a lot from a lot of people that I talk with. It says it's difficult to sit around a room with a group of Nigerians, okay, from whatever part of the country, mainly, especially from the South or the Southwest, that once you finish discussing with them, the things that you've discussed, the walls have ears. The people that you've been discussing about and planning against and running against and this and that, the next day, they're going to get this information verbatim, including who said what, how they said it, why they said it. And then one day, one of the people you've been in a room with, you just hear that they've been appointed to some government thing or the other, or giving some government contract or the other, and then they stop showing up for meetings. I hear this all the time. And I don't know if this is something you've come across, and what do we then do? Because that's why a lot of people, including my brother that you mentioned, are almost giving up. You know, they're just throwing up their hands in the air and saying, this Nigeria, it's almost irredeemable, except if God does what he did for China, and by some stroke of luck or accident, we get a good leader in place. I don't know if you have a response to that. And by the way, those on the platform, if you have questions or ideas or suggestions or points, please send them through the chat box or indicate so that we can take some of these questions before we close. Go ahead, Bashir.
Well, to be sure, we are not planning a revolution. So we have nothing to hide. Anybody can come. I mean, in this kind of arrangement, you can't, that's the risk you run, that you organize with people who are not as, nearly as committed as you are. That's one of the risks that you run. But what you need, like I said, is to have that critical mass everywhere. It's not easy. It's not a walk in the park. What we are witnessing today took years to build. For 21 years, the people now in the arena have persevered because there's so much to gain. So we need to bring the same level of commitment as they have in order to dislodge the kind of patronage system that is in place today.
Thank you very much, Bashir. As a matter of fact, part of what we're trying to do on this platform is to demystify this whole political process and let people know that with some commitment and effort and sacrifice, it is possible. And the next thing is that people should jump in. Jump in. There's nothing to be afraid of, because Nigeria belongs to all of us. People are now talking about having dual passports. You'll be amazed at the caliber of people who are thinking of getting dual passports and jumping out of Nigeria, and they're thinking that there might be drums of war or drums of this and that. And that brings me to a very important question, Bashir. What do you think about the state of our security today? And people are even talking about genocide against certain groups of Nigerians in different areas of Nigeria. And the killings are so massive all over the place that people are getting worried that we have lost almost a great thing in Nigeria. What do you think?
Well, I believe that we are paying the price of the mistakes that we've made by not throwing our hat in the ring. Almost everything, it's not just the security apparatus. Almost every facet of our public life is in the same situation. Tell me one city in Nigeria that has a reliable pipe-borne water system 24 hours a day. In fact, there is not one single developmental challenge, not one single developmental challenge that we have solved in Nigeria since 1960. Not one. Not education, not healthcare, not infrastructure, not security. Not one since 1960. And this is, and if we don't do something about it, what we're seeing today is just the tip of the iceberg. I don't believe, okay, there's an echo somewhere and it's not from me.
I think somebody switch on there. Please, thank you very much. Go ahead, Bashir.
I don't believe there's genocide going on in Nigeria. I believe there's massive crime going on of people regardless of ethnicity, regardless of religion, because so many Nigerians have nothing to do. The same people from the same ethnicity are turning against each other. The same people from the same religion are turning against each other. But the way we cast the fault lines, because it's so easy. Nobody wants to sit down and study what is happening thoroughly. It's so easy to say it is because it is between Muslim and Christian. It's so easy to say so because you don't need any analysis to do that. Everybody will just jump on that bandwagon. But what is happening in Sokoto, for example, and Zamfara, is between Muslims and Muslims. And there's more killing going on in Zamfara than the killing going on in Southern Kaduna, for example. So it is divide us. That's why people are resorting to this very lazy analysis of Muslims against Christians, of Fulani against everybody else, of herders against farmers. It's lazy analysis. It's much, much more than that. It's much more than that. So we need to sit down and understand the dynamics of our society. Things are happening that we are not analyzing very well, and things are not getting better because we have not placed our finger on the problem. We're all, we've been indoctrinated into believing that only a Muslim can hate a Christian, only a Christian can hate. So whenever there's a conflict, it's between a Muslim and a Christian, or between an Igbo and a Hausa or Yoruba, or between, this is lazy analysis.
What really then is the problem? How come now there seems to be this division between Christians and Muslims, these killings in Southern Kaduna being put on a platform of religion, the videos of the Khan man being beheaded, and this and that. And what exactly is happening in Zamfara? Why are Muslims turning against Muslims? Why is there killing all over the place? And what do we...
That's the kind of thing I want you to avoid. It's not Muslims against Muslims. It's criminals against law-abiding people. That is what is going on.
But what does a criminal have to do by picking up a man from his house and just cutting off his head? What does a criminal have to gain? What's the criminal intent in that? Isn't that
okay, how many of those videos did you see? You personally, how many of those videos did you see?
I've seen about 4 or 5 of them, quite a lot.
Okay, how many thousands dead?
I don't know, to be honest.
Okay, let me tell you, most of the people that die are ordinary people who are minding their own business, people in their homes, both Muslims and Christians, both minority and majority. And why is this happening? Most of it is this indoctrination about people, settler and indigenous.
Settler
that,
and Indian, yeah?
yeah, that this is my ancestral land.
Okay.
And nobody is allowed to come and stay in my ancestral land.
Okay.
If the people of Lagos say the same thing, there will be, I don't know what will happen in Nigeria, because I can tell you more than 2/3 of the people that live in Lagos are not from Lagos. Okay, so it's people who have something to gain that are casting this conflict in these towns. But the truth of the matter is that in Nigeria, there is no settler, there is no indigenous, there is only a citizen. A Nigerian citizen is entitled to live anywhere they want to live, as long as they are law-abiding, as long as they don't break the law. So the concept of a settler and indigenous is a primitive concept. Here we are, you telling me Nigerians are getting a second passport and going to other countries to live. And those countries actually accept them, give them their own passports. But in your own country, there is a part of the country you can't live, you can't stay. What kind of country are we building?
So how do we solve this problem? What do we do to?
It's your job. Is you have a very influential platform as a pastor. It's your job, it's my job, wherever we are, to tell people the truth, to stand by the truth and by the Constitution of Nigeria, not to divide them, not to take advantage of them for our own personal benefit. So you and I and everybody else have a role to play. The media is the most, is the culprit in this, because the media that is casting this in those terms. And the reason is simple, that anybody can now become a journalist. I was an editor of a newspaper. During my time, you can't just walk into the newsroom and they give you a tape recorder to go and start collecting news. But now, you go to the newsroom when you have no job to do. So anybody can become a journalist, no training whatsoever, and no stake whatsoever, because the journalist doesn't get paid. He gets paid by the people who plant the news. There is nothing you can plant in Nigerian media today. If you have the money, there is nothing, no story you can't plant. And nobody is above being bought. And when I say nobody, I don't mean everybody. There are exceptions to the rule. Now, if we have this kind of country that you can buy anybody, can plant any story, can roll out any narrative without regard to the best interest of your neighbor, without regard to the best interest of the country, that everybody is just pursuing their own agenda. We don't have a common value system. There is no limit to the depth to which we can't fall. Now, if we have a country that has no limit to the below which you can't fall, this kind of thing happen. This is a country where we prepare a special occasion to celebrate someone who returns money that he has picked somewhere that doesn't belong to him. This is an ordinary act of human kindness. But we have fallen so low that this has become heroism. So you and I have a role to play in correcting this system. In fact, we are the problem of this system. If you go to the markets where these killings are taking place, you find these ordinary people doing business without regards to these fault lines. But it is when I have an interest, or you have an interest, that we all occupy our own platforms and we talk down to them and divide them and get them to start killing each other. That is what is going on.
So I think, Bashir, you and I need to meet. We need to sit down together and we need to work out how to help in this country and how to really change this narrative and better educate our people and maybe also hold government accountable. There's a lady called, or a gentleman called Anjola Oshinuga. I think you want to make a comment or ask a question very quickly. Anjola Oshinuga, please, very quickly. You've asked her to unmute.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah.
Good evening, sir. I'll say thank you for hosting the platform, Florets. I'm Angela from Kingston. My name is Angela. I'm the founder of Inspired Leadership Group. And my question is, with the way Nigeria is going politically, what will you consider to be the future of the youth? And what do you feel the youth should be focused more on going ahead?
Well,
Okay.
Bashir, I
Yeah.
think that question is for you. So please go ahead and answer it.
You see, what the youth need to understand is that nobody will give you a role to play. You need to define your purpose and work towards it as if there is no tomorrow. I come from Kano. In the late 1940s and early 1950s, Aminu Kano was in his mid-20s. But in his mid-20s, he created a movement that fought British colonialism and Northern traditional institutions at the same time, in his mid-20s. Aminu Kano died at 65. I'm 60 now. He has lived his life in his early 20s, early 30s and 40s. So if you are in your 20s and 30s and you're still asking me, what does the youth need to do? I think you need to go back and ask yourself, what is my purpose in my life? Is my purpose to be creating short videos and making fun of society, or my purpose to do something about it? This is the question you need to ask yourself. Nobody is going to assign the youth a role. It's the youth that will define its role for itself and work for it.
I think the youth simply need to get involved at whatever level they can get involved in and begin to work hard and plan for the future. I think the youth in Nigeria keep talking about, I don't know how to describe it. They keep segregating themselves into a little corner and thinking that somebody is going to come and call them to do something. I agree with you, Bashir. They should jump.
I was Abubakar Rimi's personal assistant at 21. I was writing his speeches at the age of 21. And nobody taught me how to get to that position. I fought my way. So everybody has to define for themselves what's their purpose in life, what do they want to achieve in life. If you want to ride a BMW, okay, fine, go into business. If you want a better society, then fine, go into politics.
Yeah, get involved at whatever stage and begin to climb your way up. Everybody had to, one way or the other, climb their way up. And if anything at all, our generation, we've gotten a little bit of the short end of the stick, but we're trying to make our way back now and truly get involved. Bashir, let's go back to pre-independence and the structure, North, West, and East. Everybody is now calling for restructuring. Everybody is calling for a new constitution. People are calling for better resource control and things like that. I want to hear your thoughts and your opinion on that. Regionalization, to have a proper federation or whatever. What's wrong with our constitution? I had a great constitutional lawyer here last week who tore the constitution apart and gave us a great insight as to the benefits of a constitution. And then, of course, resource control, which people are a bit clay feet about and a bit anxious about. What's your thoughts on that?
Okay, now my views on this are not very popular, but I'll make them anyway. One, I don't think Nigeria's problem is a structure. Any kind of structure in Nigeria can be made to function. But we are simply very, very good at scapegoating the law to hold our laws responsible for our failures. Our laws didn't fail us. We failed ourselves. With the set of laws we have, we can run a very, very good country and a fair society with the set of laws that we have. Now, having said that, I would also concede that things can be much, much better. Nigeria's structure can be much, much better because of the situation in which we find out, because of the toxic politics that we have to live with every day. Otherwise, what's the difference between Etua and Bashir? You introduced me as your brother. So what's the problem if you produce oil and you build school in my village? What's the problem with that? But we are living through times that are not ideal, and we are breathing into each other's faces, and we probably need to each step back in order to recover from this toxic environment before maybe we re-engage. I'll give you a story. In 1991, a group of Northerners, I'll give you some names, some of them are dead, invited Chief Enahoro to Kano and presented Chief Enahoro with 5 options on how to restructure Nigeria. And I still have those maps that were drawn up. 5 different options. I was in that meeting. Chief Enahoro came with his team. We agreed to pursue a restructuring the agenda in Nigeria together. But Chief Enahoro came to Lagos and now launched a press conference and launched his movement for national reformation and started pursuing a unilateral restructuring agenda. If we had done that together, probably by now would have gone very, very far. And much of what Chief Enahoro has sold to Nigeria as his original position or restructuring was position he took away from our meeting in Kano. I have the documents to prove it. So restructuring, as we know it today, the debate on restructuring as we know it today started from Kano. And you will bear me witness that a lot of radical ideas have started from Kano. So the myth that some parts of the country are not interested in structuring is what it is. It is a myth. If you look at the poverty index in Nigeria, 86% of Northerners are in abject poverty. The system doesn't work for them. The Southwest has only 22% poverty. So how is it that it's the people that don't benefit from the system, don't want the system to change? It doesn't make sense. But that's the way the debate is cast. And they say those, the person with the, I forgot the person who has in my language, when they say, if you have a stallion, you run faster. So the people who have the mouthpiece, carry the debate. But the truth of the matter is that in many parts of the North, if you go there, nobody is happy with the way Nigeria is functioning today. But I can also concede that there are very people who are benefiting from the way Nigeria is run today, who don't want it to change. But I can tell you an overwhelming majority of Nigerians are not happy, especially in the North, are not happy with the way this country is running. And they want it to change. But nobody wants to hear from them.
Is it that nobody wants to hear from them, or they're not talking? No, because I find it very interesting, really, to find 86% of our people in the North are going through this kind of
Yeah.
And we're not really hearing much from them. In those days, you heard a lot from Aminu Kano. This same Aminu Kano you spoke about, he was the head of the Talakawas, I am told, and I am aware. And he drove a revolutionary kind of thinking of trying to really do away and bring up the lower class and so on and so forth. How come we're not hearing any voices like that anymore?
Okay, in those days, politics was driven by ideology. It was not driven by ethnicity and religion. In those days, NCNC and NEPU worked together because they believed in the same sets of values. But now the issues that sell, the issues that appeal to Nigerians are the divisive issues. So the voices of reason are drowned because you would rather hear Father Kuka talk about Muslim and Christian than listen to me talk about the rich and the poor. That is what is going on in Nigeria. The media has decided that Nigeria will not live in peace. And this is what is going on.
Yeah, if we go back
So we are amplifying the wrong issues. We are not amplifying the poverty that is across the country, is everywhere. Today I saw a message from someone who sent me a message. A minister in a part of the country has 9 of his blood relations in positions in public offices that he himself has recommended. Now, is this between North and South, or between, you know? So the problem is we are looking at the wrong sets of issues. We are not looking at the issues that will galvanize. The poor people are not interested in religion. They are not interested in ethnic identity. They are not interested in any identity. They are interested in a system which will make their life better. But it is us, you and I, that have the platform to amplify messages that are sending the message that will divide them.
I think we have a lot of work to do, especially to help this poor and to communicate the right kind of messages that will lead to development in Nigeria. But coming back to this issue of restructuring and this and that, I think part of the challenges they have said is that the present law or constitution, especially where you have the federal government controlling a lot of the resource, has hampered the development of other minerals and resources in Nigeria. And, you know, in those days when we were growing up, and I think we grew up about the same time, you had what they call cash crops, cotton, ginger, Benny seed, cocoa, groundnuts, palm oil, and so on and so forth. That's what Nigerian economy was developed on, ab initio. You don't hear any of those things anymore. And that's because oil came in, and the concentration on oil and this resource rule has discouraged a lot of people who produce natural resource from focusing on those resources. I went to Kogi the other day. There's marble growing out of the ground in Kogi, marble, and nobody's touching it because it seems of no benefit to the people or the government of those regions to bother, because the federal government is going to restrict them or is just going to carry all the money, and so there's no point. So there must be a new thinking as to how to be able to really release all the economic potential and have value-add production in Nigeria. We produce cocoa. We don't have any chocolate industries. We produce palm oil. We don't have any palm oil processing plants. We produce cassava, yet we're importing ethanol and things like that into Nigeria. It's just an unbearable. In fact, you produce oil and you don't produce petrol. You know, parts of this laziness in adding value in Nigeria, and all that thinking really has to change. So I think that is the real argument about resource control, and not necessarily exchanging funds here and there. And the other thing that you said, yes, I'm happy to build a hospital, a road, whatever, in any part of Nigeria, but let it be a decision that I take and not a compulsion by fiat, by some government that does not even allow me to think as to how I want to manage the money that my family has generated. What's your thoughts on this?
You know, that's where the problem lies. You see, we all believe that Nigeria's wealth is in mineral resources, it's in oil, in marble, in gold. That's not Nigeria, where Nigeria's wealth is. Nigeria's wealth is in its people, not its mineral resources. To tell you the truth, if I have my way, we'll shut all Nigerian oil wells today. If I have my way. Because really, how many countries have oil? How many of the richest countries in the world have oil? That's not where our wealth is. Our wealth is in our people.
But we have not even developed our people.
Just a second.
We have not even developed them.
Just a second. We have exported more talent from Nigeria than we have exported oil. In terms of revenue, we've exported more talent than we have exported oil. The money that's coming from the Nigerian diaspora from in 2018 and 2019, 2018 to be specific, was much higher than the revenue we've earned from oil.
I agree, but that wasn't an export. That wasn't a deliberate export. Those people ran away from Nigeria, and they are not.
That is the problem, because we have not kept them, because we have created a toxic environment.
And in terms of people being the resource, the whole idea of people being the resource, I agree with you 100%, but it is their brains that now harness resource. You know, there has to be a combination. So you can have all the intelligence that you want, but if you can't make that intelligence work in harnessing resources, it's a waste of time. There are many brilliant people who are sitting in asylums and they're not harnessing any resource because they don't know what to do. So we may say the intelligence is in the people, but the people develop the environment and use their intelligence to harness resource, be it tourism, be it IT, be it sand making, be it brick making, be it making of houses. It's the mind that makes those things, okay? But
you've just jumped to my side. You've just changed sides.
No. I'm not on any side, Bashir. I'm just marshalling points and getting you to respond to them. You understand? And I want you to understand that we're not on different sides. We're going to work together, okay?
Yeah.
But we just have to marshal these points and understand one another. How do we develop these, our people, okay? We have not developed enough, and the few that we have developed, our toxic environment, as you call it, has exported them, or not even, I won't use the word export, has driven them away into some kind of slavery or some kind of asylum. They've run as asylum. Even people, even banks in Nigeria are losing staff. Professional firms like mine, like KPMG, they're losing staff every day because the environment is just unbearable for them. And we're sitting back and we're looking, how can we have 12 million children in Nigeria who are not going to school 60 years after independence?
Now you are hitting the nail on the head. You know, when you talk about restructuring, I don't see restructuring in terms of how do we distribute resources. I don't see restructuring in those terms. Because if we are a distributive economy, that an economy that only knows how to distribute resources, not how to create them.
How to develop them, not distribute, develop the resource.
I'm coming. Because we are talking about who gets what now. We are talking about, okay, who gets what from Nigeria's resources. That's what we're talking about. So who gets what is a matter of distribution. No, now, what I'm saying is, let us invest in our people. Why should a country like Nigeria have 12 million children on the streets? Those are the issues. Why should that happen? So if we need to talk about restructuring, how do we fix that system? How do we devolve power on policy making in education? How do we empower communities? How do we empower localities to educate their children? And how do we give them the resources to do that? We have yesterday I saw the data on unemployment in Nigeria. The top 4 states that has the highest number of unemployment, 3 of them are oil producing states. Only Kaduna, which is the 4th, is a non-oil producing state. Oh, sorry, it's not Kaduna even, it's Imo, is the 4th, which is a... Hello, I'm running out of battery. Okay, just give me a second.
Yeah, it's all right. We're soon going to close anyway.
My battery power is draining, but I have a charger close to me. And at any rate, I have to leave at 8:30 myself. I mean 6:30.
Yeah, we'll close before 6:30.
Okay. So of the four states that have the highest rate of unemployment, 3 are oil producing. It's only Imo that is not oil producing. So is the distribution or is the natural resource the issue? Why should an oil producing state have very high unemployment in spite of the kind of money that they get from their resources? So we are looking at the wrong issues. The right issues are, why are we not investing properly in education? And what stops us from making those investments? And if the way to fix that is to devolve power of education up to tertiary level, to states, or even to local governments, let's do it. Those are the issues. And we've left the issues we are looking at to tell in the next 10 years, you will have nowhere to export your oil. You will have nowhere in 10 years to export your oil. So what do? Then if the resource control is the main issue, then restructuring is dead. Because it's all about sharing oil resources. So in the next 10 years, in fact, during the COVID-19 era, we had our ships in the high seas and nobody wanted them. So we have to look beyond the current horizon to create a sustainable society, not a society that thrives on what do I get now from my natural resources. I will tell you something. There is 10 times more gold between Katsina and Zamfara than there is in South Africa.
This is what I'm saying. How do we create the environment where we can develop that gold? How do we create that environment where we can mine the tin? How do we create the environment where we can take the marble out of the ground in
I don't want to mine gold.
What do you want to do?
That's my point. I don't want to mine gold.
So what do you want to do?
I want to educate my people.
You educate them so that they can mine the gold effectively and sell the gold. That's why you're educating them.
So what do you do? What do you do first?
No. Even whatever it is.
What's your priority? What's your priority?
Whatever it is, both must run pari passu. I think we have enough intelligence in Nigeria to both mine the gold and educate the children. We don't have.
The problem is we have relegated one to the background and we are talking only about the other.
No. I'm talking about both. I am.
You are, but the debate in Nigeria is not about that.
That's why we must get the debate in the right context. That's why you and I on this platform, how do we work together to get this debate in the right context so that Nigeria can develop evenly together in every aspect? Why have we, 60 years after independence, neglected the training of our children? And again, the problem in the, what you may call South-South, is not necessarily that they are getting a large percentage of the oil revenue. That percentage is not going to the people. It is being cornered by this political class that we're talking about. You look at what happened in NDDC, or whatever their name is, NDDC recently, where almost all the money, off the mic, people were complaining that most of the money was going back to the off the mic people. This is the problem we're talking about. So how much of that money went to the people in that area? But anyway, a gentleman called Ayo Adeyodele would like to say one or two things. Then we'll take Wega Dejumo, and then we begin to round up and take last comments from my brother Bashir. We must find a way, Bashir, to move this country forward. And I'm sorry that we've not been in touch better over the last few years, but I think we have to make amends for that and try and catch up. So, Mr. Ayodele, please, very quickly, let me hear your comments. Is it there?
He's muted. They should remind him to unmute himself.
Please unmute yourself, Mr.
Is it Mr. Ayodele or Mr. Ayo? Which of the two?
Ayodele. Is it Ayodele Iroche? Okay, maybe you're okay, Mr. Iroche, go ahead. That's my brother.
Itwa.
Sir?
I think Nigeria is a failed country. She was asking. As we are today, Nigeria is a completely failed country.
Don't say so. Nigeria.
Wait. Ibrahim is saying that he's 60 years old. I'm 71. So I know what Nigeria was before independence. Okay? I know what Nigeria was before independence. You're talking about Aminu Kano at 20, whatever he became. Look, how many of our children are in Nigeria today to help fight this vast thing we're talking about? A lot of our children. You see, people, when this thing starts, people say, oh, you want our children to go and fight for you, and your children are abroad. We can't, they're not ready to do that. A lot of this well-to-do people have their children abroad. And so a lot of, Aminu Kano was at 20. There was no cutoff mark in going to secondary school. It's when you went to King's College, there was no cutoff mark. You went for an entrance examination and you were admitted on merit. I went to St. Gary's College. I was admitted on merit.
Upgrade.
We did our common entrance. So we did our common entrance examination. So when you now talk, some people are having cutoff mark of 2, while in other places they're having 100 and something. And you think that we have equality in this country? No way. There's no equality. You want to admit people in universities, some people are getting cutoff mark of 30, while in other places they're getting 200 and something as cutoff mark. No, there's no way things can work that way. We have thrown away merits to mediocrity. A lot of it.
So, what was your suggestion?
Fine. We should go back to, look, Ibrahim, I like the way, but we should go back to the drawing board. Why must we, Ibrahim, I'm sure when you went to school, there was no cutoff mark. You got admission on merit. So let us sit down and ask ourselves those basic questions. What are the problems that are causing all this? Okay? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ibrahim, Bashir,
yes,
do you have any response?
I'm sorry, I'm not being disrespectful, but where were you all this time when the standards fell so low that some people now are having 2 as cutoff mark while others are having 200? Where were you? That's the problem we've been discussing all along. That it's so easy to pontificate. What's difficult is to get your hands dirty, get into the space and dirty up your hand in order to fix the problem. Now we have allowed our education system to collapse so much so that some parts of the country cannot produce secondary school leavers. Now, when you say, how is it credit to you that living in Lagos, a Nigerian in Sokoto cannot go to secondary school? How is it a credit to you? How is it a credit to you that living in Port Harcourt, that Boko Haram is killing ordinary Nigerians in Borno? So this is the issue. We see Nigeria as patches of land. We don't see Nigeria as a country. Because like it or not, what is happening in Sokoto with 2% or 2 cut of mark is affecting you now in Lagos. It's affecting you, and that's why you're complaining. But what did you do about it? What is happening in Borno? Boko Haram killing people, and you are sitting in Port Harcourt thinking that let them kill themselves. My brother, it will one day happen in Port Harcourt if you don't solve it in Borno. We are a country, we are a country. We are not patches of communities. And the sooner we realize that and blend into a country, the better. And the more we continue to think that I am a community and an island upon myself, then the more we perpetuate the problem.
Bashir, how do we get Nigeria to blend into a country? I think this is one of our biggest problems, you know. We're still having all this ethnicity, all this religious, this and that. How? What do you think we can?
It's your job and mine. It's your job. It's not a government job. It's your job and mine. We all have our own platforms. By our actions and by what we say, that's how, it's how people work together. That's how a country comes together. It's not what the government does. It's what you and I do to ourselves. That's what brings the country together.
No, but
if you are happy and being killed in Borno, we can't be the same country.
No. The government.
No, I'm not saying you are. I'm just saying that it is what we do with each other. It's how we work together. That is how a country comes together. It is when I meet you in traffic and respect your right of way. That is how a country comes together. It is when you come for an interview that I give you the job when you deserve it. That is how a country comes together. It's not what the government does. It's what we do to ourselves. Aliko Dangote is the richest black man in the world. He made his money in Lagos, mostly. He probably could not have been that rich if he were living in Kano. That's the kind of country we want. If you go to Sabon Gari Market in Kano, at least 50% of the shops in Sabon Gari Market belongs to people from the Southeast. That's the kind of country we want. Not a country that says, go back where you come from. You will never build a country by saying, go back where you come from.
So, Bashir, you and I have to work on this don't go back where you come from business, because I think that's very, very, very important. A gentleman called Boyega Dejumo wants to speak. We will take him as our last contributor. Then I'm going to ask Bashir to respond to his comment and give us his final words and his parting shot. Also, I'd like us to look at these 5 options for restructuring off this platform, Bashir, you and I, and see if they're still relevant or not relevant anymore. We'll look at that again if it's still available. So, Boyega, ask your question, and then...
Yeah, I'm here, and I'm saying to my brother, Itu, and my brother, Aswe, it's good to be back again. I wonder why I've not been invited. Sister me, Dr. Tukumbawolo Dosumu had to go to all the length to get me here. Now to why we're here, or perhaps what I heard, and my response would be, I suppose we all went to school, and I'm not saying this in a derogatory way. I'm not saying it to hit anyone, but just to emphasize a very serious fact that going to school is about growth, it's about development. Going to school is about making sure that there was competition, in which case, if I knew I was going to fail, and then my mates are going to be ahead of me, then I better buckle up. I better just do something to make sure that I'm in their league, not just in the class, but perhaps even in a higher class. And what is wrong about growth? Nothing. In every which way, if you don't aspire to grow, then you are left behind. And that is what has happened to Nigeria. Restructuring is nothing like a North and South thing like our friend is making it to be. And I'm actually very, very not happy with the way our friend Bashir is taking restructuring to be. can we look at how it was when we were in the 50s and the kind of competition that was going on between the regions, and look at how we are today, in which case people just go to Abuja, whether they work hard or not, something is given to them in the name of allocation. And let's look at the allocation, for example. Bashir is saying, is somebody going to be happy that somebody is being killed in Zamfara? Of course, I'm not happy. But Bashir may not believe that I'm not happy. But when June 12th was annulled, there was happiness all over the North. Let us look at it from the point of view of who we are and not run away from it. We have been fragmented. This is not a country. Bashir is trying to make it to look like we have a country. It is a farce. The only thing we can do is look at the structure and realize that many failed states have gone through this way. And if we fail to realize it, it will happen. I was in Sierra Leone in the 80s. I saw how the settlers were calling the indigenous natives. And I told my friends in Sierra Leone, a war is going to come. They told me to never come, but the war came. Are we so very, very deficient in optics not to see what is going on in Nigeria today? Let's look at Kano.
Hold
on, please. Let me finish. Let's look at the old Kano of Jigawa and Katsina.
You can't tell me to hold on.
The same Kano, the same Kano with the same. Hold on, please. I think the idea is I have the floor. When you have the floor, I didn't budge in, please. When we had the whole old Kano, when we had the old. Excuse me, when we had the old Kano,
We got to try and round up so that we can close.
I will. Answer my brother. It's like this. The old Kano had the same population as the Lagos, but then they broke it down into 3 states, and between them they have about 104 House of Rep members. And Lagos still has 20. And somebody is telling me that we don't need restructuring. Somebody is telling me everything is right.
Okay, Gwega, that's all right. Thank you.
Okay, let me just respond quickly.
So,
all the facts.
And then come and give us your closing remarks. Thank you. Gwega, thank you very much. Let's try and catch up. It's good to hear from you again.
All your facts are wrong. That's the problem. You are making an argument on the wrong premise. One, nobody says that there should be no restructuring in Nigeria. I didn't say that. But the second one is that when you say that education is about development, if you know you are not going to make up, you buckle up. Are you insinuating that dumb people are concentrated in one part of the country and then intelligent and bright people are concentrated in another? Is that what you're saying? Two, when you said that when June 12 was annulled, people in the North celebrated. That's false, because Abiola won handsomely in the North. Abiola defeated Bashir Tofa in Kano, his own state, by a wide margin. I was on Abiola's Hope 93 campaign. It is the people of the Southwest that fought Abiola, if you forgot, because of his being in NPN, because he fought Awolowo. It's not the people of the North that fought him. The people of the North voted for him, but the military annulled his election, and the people of the North are not military people. So your facts are wrong. If you make comments, you better make them on the basis of correct facts, not on faulty premise.
Thank you very much, Bashir. What are your closing remarks as we...
My closing remarks are we still continue to create toxicity in this environment. Nigeria needs more people at the center, not at the extremes. We need more people to come to the center and talk to each other, not to pull back in your corner and begin to throw insults at other parts of the country. The more you do that, the more you divide the country. What I said was, it's how we treat ourselves. That's how we build our country. If we treat ourselves with disdain, like it's been insinuated that someone is not buckling up because that's why he's getting 2 points, he's naturally unintelligent, that's insulting. But there are conditions that make that happen. We need to address those conditions, not the symptoms, not what those conditions have thrown up. The conditions have thrown up young people that are not going to school. What are those conditions? But you are now insulting them for not being able to make the marks. But you forgot that something preceded that. So it's the way we treat each other. That's how we build our country. If we treat each other with respect, we treat each other as human, and we correct each other with sincerity, then we earn each other's respect. For someone now to look at me, who fought for Abiola, who fought throughout June 12th, to say that the people of the North, when did the people of the North sit down and have a meeting and decide that they are going to celebrate June 12th? So people should be more rational and more compassionate in the way they speak to others. Because it's not just that you can speak English. Your tongue,
the protest against June 12th did not in any way gain any traction in the North. I saw it. It was a collective thing that even that, which
that is a lie, that is false.
Supported by their votes, will not be supported by making sure that the rightful winner of the election was going to be installed. And we both know what we are saying. Excuse me, don't let us come here and start grandstanding. This is not a place to start gaslighting.
Wait, guys, it's okay. It's okay. Let's close this discussion on a peaceful note. We can continue, the 3 of us or 4 of us later. That's okay. Thank you. Bashir, just close and let's.
Those are my closing remarks. To be honest with you, I've been fasting all day and I was supposed to break my fast about 15 minutes ago. My food is there right next to me. And you know our fasting, you don't eat, you don't drink. And I've been doing it for 18 hours. So I need to go and break my fast.
It's okay.
And thank you very much for inviting me.
Bashir, thank you very much for being part of this. Let's talk later. Let's see how we can get together and try and move this discussion forward for the sake of Nigeria. I want to thank everybody on this platform for coming. I want to thank you for being there. 1st of October is next Thursday. We are going to be having open mic to discuss the independence of our people. Open mic to discuss the independence of our people. 1st of October. If you have any comments, any ideas, any suggestions, let us have them. I just want to end with a few quotes. The only way we'll get freedom for ourselves is to identify ourselves with every oppressed people in the world. We are blood brothers to the people of Brazil, Venezuela, Haiti, Cuba. Yes, Cuba too, Malcolm X. Then the end may justify the means as long as there's something that justifies the end. That's Leon Trotsky on the morals, the class foundation of moral practice. And then the final one by Abraham Lincoln himself, elections belong to the people. It's their decision. If they decide to turn their backs on the fire and burn their behinds, then they will just have to sit on their blisters. If you are on this platform, you want to join, you want to be part of it, please send your comments and suggestions to Pastor Itwa PA, Pastor Itwa PA @gmail.com. Itwa is spelled with an H. Also, if you have not already done so, please fill the form on the chat room. Fill the form on the chat room. Like my Egbon Auntie Tokumbo Awolowo Dosumu did, please let's try and invite other people to this platform as well, so that we can have as many people listening to this conversation and also contributing to it. The references are the same almost every week, so that you don't have to wait until a new invitation. Just go to the old one, click on it, and join us at 5 o'clock every Thursday. We try our best not to keep the conversation longer than 1.5 hours so that it doesn't drag. We can't conclude everything in one day. We just have to keep on talking and keep on discussing and keep on getting the right people involved in the conversation and in leadership in this country. One of the things that Bashir said is that we, the middle class, we have abrogated our responsibility because we're caring more for ourselves and less for our nation. I'd like to see your 1st of October open mic to discuss the independence of our people, 5 o'clock. Thank you very much for being part of this conversation. Thank you for the Nigerian series. Thank you, the African Leadership Group. God bless you all. God keep you. God strengthen you. God enlarge your coast. And God bless our nation, Nigeria, in Jesus' name. Thank you very much.